And welcome to the Pegan First podcast. My name is Josh, and I get the absolute pleasure of serving as the online ministries director right here at Pegan First. And I am by myself today. Sean had to step out for an emergency, so you get me today. And it is just a great pleasure to be able to come to you with this podcast. And as you can tell, if you're watching online, you can tell, I don't know, let me see if you can see it. Yeah, you can kind of see it behind me. You can kind of see that the room looks a little different. The tech team was in here over the weekend, and Eric and Tim and some other guys in here over the weekend, and they put up the sound panels. And which makes it, if you're listening to this like on the Apple podcast or the Amazon podcast, you can hear the difference. If you're watching, you can hear and see the difference. So it does sound so much better in here without the echo. So thanks to those guys for getting that done. And just we're making progress. It's slow but sure, and we're just making sure we do it right. So it sounds so much better in here. Thank you to those guys for doing that this weekend. This week's personal best for me is watching my daughter play volleyball, watching her grow in the sport. She took some lessons, and she's just growing so much in that sport. And she just the team growth, the personal growth is just amazing. The other thing is me and my wife went to Lenten lunch on Wednesday, just yesterday, and hearing Emmy speak. And Emmy has a way of putting things into words that just make you think about everything. And she's a great speaker. I know it's not her forte, or it's not her comfort zone. I shouldn't say it's her forte because she's really good at it, but it's not her comfort zone. And one of her comments, I'm always looking for those life-changing, maybe not moments, but those life-changing phrases, those phrases that make you think about everything. And she said something that, if God is pushing you, and I rewatched it this morning, I put it together, and you can catch it online if you go to our website. It's under digital content, and it's the 2026 Lenten Lunches. So I rewatched it this morning as I was putting it together to put it online. And she said, if one of these ministries is pushing you, or you feel that tug from God to get involved in one of these ministries, but you feel uncomfortable, that means that's what God's plan is for you. Because I'm sure, and this is the part that gets me, I'm sure Jesus wasn't comfortable, right? What just an eye-opening statement as we pursue, as we continue in our lives, and we do things in a certain way that make us comfortable. It's crazy to think about the way we get comfortable, the way I'm a creature of habit, and my wife teases me about it because I'm a habit person, because that's what I'm comfortable in. From everything from working, when I go to work out in the morning, going at a certain time and being back by a certain time, and just all the things that make us feel comfortable. And just to think, was Jesus comfortable? Did he, that he was not comfortable going against the grain. So that was a bright spot in my week, just to hear something like that. It kind of gives you that eye-opening moment, and that thought process that starts. And it just kind of pushed me forward. So that was a bright spot in my week for sure. All right, we're going to get on with this episode 66 called Simple Faith, and it's got a lot to do with how we make our lives and our faith so complicated. Why do we often make faith more complicated than Jesus did? Why are we, just like I was talking about just a minute ago, why do we make ourselves comfortable when Jesus wasn't comfortable? And so why do we make faith? Why does it have to be, or why is it in our minds and our hearts that faith is so complicated? So we're going to go through defining simple faith. What does it mean to have simple faith? Well, faith is trust It's not perfection. Faith was meant to be lived, not complicated. Not complicated. Live into your faith. Don't complicate it. Faith is relationship, not performance. Faith is daily obedience, not theological expertise. And I wish this is the part that I wanted Sean here for, because I feel that Sean knows his P's and Q's as far as theological. He knows so much. He was a teacher. He knows so much on theological stuff, and he doesn't call himself an expert. He's not an expert, but he has a way, and my wife says it best. He has a way of putting it so that I understand it. And in Jesus's day, most of the religious leaders were know-it-alls. And we don't find that. I haven't found a pastor that feels like they're a know-it-all in this day and age that I've personally met, that they feel like they're a know-it-all. They are our local pastors, and I can't speak for everybody that I haven't met, but the local pastors that I have met are so wrapped up in grace that it's amazing. Grace and love, and they all work together to just better this community. But in Jesus's day, the religious leaders were all know-it-alls. Most of the politicians, they all feared Caesar, as they felt that was the only God that they knew. But Jesus's rescue mission required those who would they were open to receiving that radical message of a seemingly upside down kingdom. We're not going to praise Caesar. We're not going to listen to the religious leaders who think they know it all. He chose people who lived under worldly oppression, to follow him. He chose people who lived under worldly oppression, whose minds were uncluttered by worldly priorities. He chose those whose faith were simple and heartfelt. And he seeks that today too. He seeks a simple person. He seeks someone who is open to receiving the word, even though it might be uncomfortable. We're going to focus on Luke. Luke 10, 21 through 22. At that time, Jesus, full of joy through the Holy Spirit, said, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and the learned and revealed them to little children, referring to the people who are open to the message, the radical message. It continues, he says, yes, Father, for this is what you were pleased to do. All things I have committed to me by my Father. No one knows who the Son is except for the Father, and no one knows who the Father is except for the Son, and those to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Jesus is talking, and he says that the faith is pure in children, like children, right? Because we were talking about this right before Lenten lunch. We were talking to Emmy, me and my wife, and Sean was in the room. And it's amazing how pure a child's faith is. How pure a child is. How pure a young child is. They don't know lies. They don't know deceit. They don't know all the things that divide us. They just don't know. So their faith is so pure. In Matthew 18:3, He emphasizes childlike trust. Children trust before they fully understand. And as adults, we often reverse that. We won't trust anything until we understand it. And honestly, so me and my wife were having a conversation yesterday. We were driving home from a volleyball game, and we were in separate cars, and we're on the phone. And sometimes that's just what you got to do to communicate. You know what I mean? Because time is limited, we do it when we drive. Now, mind you, I wasn't texting. I was on hands-free. But we had the same conversation. I admitted to her that if I don't understand it, I don't trust it. And that's hard. And that's where I struggle in my faith, because I feel that I understand God. I feel that I know I love God and I trust God, but it's the things that God pushes me towards. And that's what we were talking about. The things that God pushes me towards, I struggle with just jumping off the cliff, if you will, or taking that next step. It's taking that next step that's hard. So what happens to us when faith gets complicated? So we start overthinking God's will. Well, is this what God wanted for me? Or is this what God wanted for me? We compare our faith to others. How many times have you, and I know I've done it, how many times have you been sitting in church or around somebody that has just an awesome understanding of faith, or just an awesome faith, and you go, man, what I wouldn't give to have that. Or the person who, and I know many of them in this church, who just give so much time, and it's just, they're in the mission. You go, man, I wish I had faith like that. I wish I could do that. I wish I had time for that. Another way that we complicate faith is we feel unworthy and not spiritual enough. I'm not good enough to go to church. That's not true. Number one, at least the churches around here that I know of, everyone is welcome. Every church I've ever been in this community, everyone is welcome. Everyone is loved. You don't get clean to get in the shower. You get in the shower to get clean. You don't get spiritual to go to church. You go to church to get spiritual. We tend to turn our faith into rules instead of relationships. For example, let's look at the United Methodists and the stuff that they just went through. And here's the deal, is I don't fully understand it. Here's what I know where we as a church are. We love everyone. And I always relate that to, I'm not the judge. I'm not the jury. I'm here to love my neighbor. I'm here to show compassion, to show grace. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here to judge anybody. And it's so hard these days, isn't it? It's so hard, especially in like my career or my job. It's a career. My career. It's hard not to judge someone, and I try so hard. I had to have a conversation with a young man today about some stuff, and it was a hard conversation. But I felt that I gave it. I tried not to prejudge that person before I had that conversation, and I'm glad I didn't, because it would have been totally wrong. But it was hard. United Methodist Church has made changes where we love everyone. That the bottom line, and I think that's where the leaders of this church have been so great, is that the message has always been unified, at least for the past dozen years that I've been heavily involved here. We love everyone. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Not the judge, not the jury. We're here to give grace. My favorite story is the story about the guy who's smoking weed, and he asked the pastor, do I have to stop smoking weed to come to church? And the pastor says no. And the guy says, maybe I didn't make myself clear, or maybe you don't understand. Do I have to stop smoking? And he used another slang term for weed. It was pot or whatever it was. And the pastor said no. No. Because, again, you don't get clean to get in the shower. You get in the shower to get clean. I know I spend a little extra time on that one, but it's so important. Let's look at how we complicate faith, how we common ways we complicate faith, and let's look at the example of Mary and Martha. And Sean did a lot of talking about Mary this last Sunday, and he explains the difference in the two Marys. This Mary and Martha is busy, right? She's waiting on Jesus, and she's doing all the things, and she has a busy faith. Mary is sitting there listening to Jesus, and she has a present faith. Sometimes faith isn't doing more, it's being closer or sitting closer. Let's talk about what faith looks like daily. Let's take a look at what simple faith looks like on a daily basis. And simple faith looks like on a daily. Talk to God honestly. Prayer doesn't have to have fancy words. We do community, what we call community prayers here in church that have, you have the hymns are all prayers, right? And they have a lot of fancy words in it. You don't have to have fancy words. And here's the other thing. Be honest, because if you don't think God doesn't know, you don't think God doesn't know that you're addicted to a drug, you don't think God doesn't know that you have an alcohol problem, you don't think God doesn't know that you're addicted to sex, you don't think God doesn't know. He knows. He's the guy that you talk to it about. He's the guy. God is that person that knows everything about you and loves you anyway. So what do you got to lose? Be honest with God. God, help me to quit drinking. God, help me to get away from drugs. God, help me to get over this, whatever it is that I'm addicted to. And it could be something as simple as, God, help me get out of the bed today. Help me clean up my house. Help me. There's so many things. God knows. So just have an honest conversation with him. Take the next faithful step. Obedience over certainty. When God calls you somewhere, when you feel God tugging you towards a ministry, just like Emmy said on the Lenten lunch, when you feel God tugging you, be obedient. It doesn't mean follow the rules. Faith isn't rules. Faith is following God's calling. and knowing that God is going to pull you through it, because it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be so hard. And I have a very good friend of mine, Heather Robertson, Pastor Heather Robertson, and she loves to preach on love and how hard it is sometimes to love. There's some obstacles that we have when we try to have a simple faith, and that's fear, doubt, busyness, and control. Everyone that's listening has one of those. 100% guarantee it. I have two of them. Maybe you have two of them. I have busyness and control. I call myself a control freak. My wife calls me a control freak in a good way. Not a good way, but in a teasing way. But underneath, I know that, and I pray, my prayer every day, God knows my issues. And one of my prayers, maybe not every day, one of my prayers often is, God, help me let go of some of the control. Here's some reflective questions to ask yourself this week. And I'm going to do the same, and I encourage you to do the same. Where have I complicated my faith? I know where I've complicated mine. I've busied myself so much that I don't have time to lean into my faith. I love doing podcasts. This is a form of me growing in my faith, because what it forces me to do, I shouldn't say force, what it allows me to do is Bible study, personal Bible study, which I don't do well in a group, and that's just who I am. I don't do well in a group, but I love to personal Bible study. I love that, because I am a squirrel, and I can go off onto, like, I get into a passage, and then I'm, what happened before that, or what happened after that, or what happened because of that, or it allows me to personal Bible study. So I've busied myself so much that I got out of that, but some of that busyness does bring me back, and I got to let go of some stuff so that I'm not so busy, right? Let's also ask ourselves, what would trusting God simply look like this week? Just simply trust Him. And every day, let's ask ourselves, what is the one small step of faith I can take today? I like that one. Small steps. I told my wife yesterday when we were on the phone and we're traveling, and I said, I'm working through it one step at a time mentally. I'm working through it one step at a time. And I couldn't explain to her exactly what, but just processing it one small bit at a time. We should do the same with our faith. What small step can I do in faith today? If you're looking for a small step, we have plenty of ways that you can get involved right here at Pekin First. We have a Bible study that happens on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m., and they're in the Unlikely Lent right now. If you didn't sign up for the Unlikely Lent, not a big deal. You can join at any time. We have books. We have you can get involved at any time. We have that same study that happens on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. with Val in the youth room. We also have it happens on Tuesday morning with Debbie at 9 a.m. here at the church. It's a great study. And it's one small step that you can take to grow in your faith. We've also got other ways. We've got Charis Place. We've got Providence Place. We've got if you are a builder or a carpentry worker or a plumber or whatever, you're in that field and you don't think that there's a way you can get involved, absolutely there is. And that's a step in your faith. You're helping with you're helping in the community. You're providing somewhere to live for people who are trying to do better in their life. That's faith. That's relationship. We've got all kinds of good things going on with the bicentennial. We got snack packing. There's just so much going on here at the church. Not even at the church, around the community of the church. So I encourage you to get involved and take the next step in your faith. And remember, God put us here to do great things. So let's go do great things.